Hey Jeff, Grant Putnam here. So here's the plan that you had sent me via email, and I just layered over top of that in my CAD software. I spent about 3 hours doing this, and I bounced a bunch of ideas back and forth, so I put some serious thought into it. From an overall scheme perspective, we talked about the desire to try to block the view going in this direction. All right. So I still have 1, 2, 3 trees. There's different trees you can choose in the cherry family. I would say you probably still want something ornamental, not like the tree over here. Like I said, that's a shade tree that grows 80 feet tall. So this, you'd probably choose something that maxes out at 30 feet tall. All right, and something that has a decent wide canopy like a cherry tree. So I'll give you some various options on the proposal when we, when you review that. Okay. But you're going to notice that I have a kidney-shaped bed because if you use majority of the trees in that area aren't going to be able to take an irrigated lawn frequency. Like I mentioned before, irrigated lawn typically when it's really hot out it's going to require water almost every day. And when you end up doing that, obviously you're going to kill any of the trees that you have there or plants. So the water would have to be on a separate drip line zone in this area, and then the water shooting away from the bed. All right, and then this way you're not watering it every day. The other thing is on a hill, it's going down this way, the water, so we'd end up having to put a little French drain on this side, on the upside of the bed, so this way the water from the lawn won't percolate down into the bed, kill the plants, kill the trees. All right. So that was one goal. Okay, the other thing I mentioned that it looks funny having a tree hydrangea and some hydrangeas around it. It's kind of redundant, and there's no height, no size. The biggest problem when you look at your house is everything's like the same size. It's like literally one line, everything the same size, and that doesn't look right. So I said, look, what you really need is you need height off this corner. So again, there's various trees, but I would choose something that doesn't have too wide of a canopy. It's ornamental, and then has multiple seasons of interest. So that's why I suggested a Stewartia, because the Stewartia blooms at a different period than your cherry trees. It blooms late spring, early summer. It has bright red color during the fall, much like the proposed maple tree that was down here, but it has a brighter red color than even that maple. Stays compact, and the bark has a really interesting color as well. So I call it one of my favorite trees. It has like a trifactor. It has 3 different really interesting characteristics. And so anyways, that's my suggestion for there. All right. The other area that we were talking about trying to block is if you're spending time in here looking at the house, which is over here. And what I did is I went on Google Earth, and by looking at Google Earth I can see your house and your neighbor's house, and I can see the sight lines. So off your property line, you'll notice here I have it labeled, what does it say, 28 feet. That's like the corner. If you look at your corner of your house to the corner of the other house is 28 feet, and then 65 feet. So if you don't want to see the house next door, you have to block between this point and this point. So there was a couple of different ways I was thinking about this. We talked about the fact that you didn't want to have any trees grow taller than the height of the electrical lines. This way you can still see the sound when you're on your upper floor of the house. So one concept was to take this same planting bed and mirror it, have the same planting bed on this side. All right. The issue with that is over here we want trees that grow a little bit taller, that have a wider branch habit, to give us more coverage for the driveway. All right. And then over here, if we chose the same thing, you're really limited in something that's gonna stay lower than the electrical lines. So my thought was, you know what? Let's create something that doesn't exactly mirror it but fits in with the overall scheme of your plan. And the other thing you're going to notice is on this part of the driveway it's curving, and hence we have a kidney shaped bed which also has a curve. But on this side of the property it's squared off the driveway. So we can create like almost a little bit of a courtyard feel. We get two birds with one stone. We'll frame this corner of the house with height with this tree, which is what we're trying to do over here. We have 4 identical trees which create like a courtyard feel. Alright. I chose trees that are more columnar growing. Alright. And this way we're not having to worry about it run into the power lines. And also this specific tree, you can continue topping the tree, meaning that you can keep at a specific height. So we should be able to keep this below the level of our desired height so we can still see the sound. So I really thought, I mean, there is 2 options. Like I said, you couldn't mirror it, but I thought this is a much better option and goes better with the structure of the property and the structure of the house. So, so again, 4 fastigiate horn beams, okay, or alternative trees. I mean, there's like redbud trees. There's all sorts of other trees that we could use in here as well. It doesn't have to be a fastigiate horn beam. And then you could, you know, amongst this, I was thinking of creating a hedge because I'm trying to, again, pick up the theme, the scheme that you have around the rest of the property. So if you want to keep it consistent, which I think would look best, is have these dwarf boxwoods in between, which only grow like 30 inches tall. Alright, so that's what these guys are here, here and here in between, and then perennials or liriope on either side of it. Alright, I think that would look really nice. So, for the front of the house, your actual wall extends further than the landscape plan. It extends over here. You're going to notice actual length of wall. And then what I did was, again, I'm trying to keep it symmetrical and consistent with the rest of the design. 2 bigger boxwoods, drift roses, which only grow like 2 feet tall, all right, in front. And the concept with that is 2.5 feet tall. The concept with that is that they bloom the longest period than any other shrub you can buy. So hydrangeas usually don't start blooming until early summer. Roses start blooming spring, and they continue all the way until frost. So it's impossible. There's nothing else that matches the color of a rose. You could also use something called an Ozo Easy Rose. Ozo Easy Rose is slightly bigger than a drift rose if you want something a little bit taller. But I think that would look really nice and give you a lot of color when you first pull in. You had all those existing little bunny grasses in there, and you'll notice I transplanted them in front. But if you want to leave that grass, you could take those little bunny grasses and put them on the back side of these green velvet boxwoods. Alright? Or if you leave the grasses where they are, where I plan to have them, then you could just do bulbs, overwinter bulbs and annuals on this side, on the back side of this boxwood hedge. Alright? So that's another idea. And on this side, to get a little bit more into the details, let's get a little closer. Okay. To get a little bit more into the details, so we have the 3 trees, ornamental trees for coverage, right? And then I had 4 taller grasses that grow 4 to 5 feet. Okay. They're called morning light grasses. And then in between, it's tough to see, but when I send you the picture, you can always maximize it. In between this layer and here, I have something called St. John's wort, and it blooms all summer. It has a yellow flower, but you can get different varieties that bloom different colors if you wanted a different color rather than yellow. But it's really, really beautiful plant. It grows at like about 3 feet tall, 3 feet wide. So it stays at that in-between height, because what you want to do is you want to have this layered effect. When you're entertained up here, you look down, you see the grass is a little bit taller than what's in between. And the shortest layer would be the salvia, which is one of the longest blooming perennials you can buy. Much like the nepeta, you have nepeta, which is also called catmint. You have that along the front of the house. So again, extended blooming period, and I had that again along this front border. Okay. And then on either corner, to try to pick up the color from the front of the house so it has the same, the same time bloom period, I have more drift roses here and here. Again, you don't need to do the exact same color as the front, but for a really long blooming period that gives you the longest possible bloom, that was my idea, is using that. Okay. The front of your house, your walkway is actually out here, where the red lines are. They must have made that as a last minute change when they were building it. So you have quite a bit of space in here. My concept was, right now it looks funny having 12-inch short plants along a big wall foundation of the house. So you really should put in American boxwoods, which fits in with the rest of the property. Do 3 or 4 American boxwoods, 3 feet by 3 feet. I know they're expensive, but they're easy to maintain, and aesthetically this is like really your curb appeal as you pull up to the house, making sure that everything is symmetrical and looks right. Alright, then the liriape you could transplant to the front of the boxwoods and still have a strip of grass that goes between the stepping stone path and the liriape. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. Alright, so again, 2 bigger American boxwood. You could do green mountain boxwood, which is pyramidal, but again I'm trying to keep it consistent. Everything else is oval, circular shaped boxwood, so I just do a bigger American boxwood here. And then drift roses or Ozo Easy roses, transplanted dwarf boxwood, which are planted here right now, moved over here. Okay. And you'll notice on both sides of the driveway, I thought about how much lawn goes between the bed and the driveway. So here, 5.5 feet, which is perfect. So you still be able to get a lawnmower through there and have the right proportional aesthetics to what you have around the rest of the property. For example, you have a strip of grass here, which is similar width as here. So I spent a lot of time thinking about that and how that was going to play out. And the same thing here. Over here, it just made sense to have about a 7-foot gap between the driveway and the bed. Okay, so I'll shoot this over to you via quote, and we'll take it from there.